If I could go back with the knowledge I have, which is what all old people say, and talk to myself when I was 20 years old, I would say, buddy, go to a trade school, get a valuable skill, make a boatload of money every year, save a boatload of money every year, and then take that money and put it into stocks and just find the best 3 stocks every year and keep piling in the money and compounding it, and then eventually move that to stocks that pay dividends. If you do that, you can live a very enjoyable life. Welcome back. This is the second video of my life and introduction. I'm Bud, the host of the Time Compass Show. On the previous video, we talked about FIRE, financial independence, retire early. When I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, that word had not been invented yet. We simply called it escaping the rat race. They're both kind of the same. FIRE is a little bit more explicit, and you should definitely search it and research it. Ask AI about it. But to put it simply, that's when your passive income is greater than your monthly expenses. And there's lots of ways to do that with real estate, stocks, dividends, royalties from books and shows, etc. Having a business that is a big enough and well managed and well system enough business that it runs itself and doesn't really expire. In fact, that's the definition from Robert Kiyosaki. If you're in a big business, then the business will continue to grow even if you are not involved in it. And that's sort of his definition, and that's what a lot of people aspire to build and do and be. And so what does Bali have to do with any of that? Well, Bali is simply a place where you can do Geo-Arbitrage. That's where you live someplace cheaper, but make money from someplace where the dollar or the value of the currency is higher. So I make money in dollars and I spend in rupiah, R-U-P-I-A-H. Fun little tidbit here. When I moved to Bali, Indonesia, $1 used to get about 14.5 to 15,000 rupiah. That sounds like a high number, but remember they don't have any decimals. So a dollar is really 100 cents, right? You can say a dollar is like 100 cents. Here you go by thousands instead of 100, so you have 15,000 rupiahs, $1. And since I've been living here, that number has continued to go up. Now, we're getting close to 17,000, which is a bit surprising for everybody. I remember when it went from 15 to 16, it was like a sudden jump, and then it just sort of stayed there and it hovers. And now it looks like we're going to be hovering around the 17,000 mark. But none of that really matters. What really matters is not the conversion rate, but what are the cost of goods and services compared to where you're from or where you're making money from. And I've 10 years removed from America, and so it's actually hard for me to keep track of what it would be like if I lived in America and what things would cost. So I would love for you to comment down below to help me figure it out, because I can see some of it on x.com, but sometimes I don't know, is that just a New York price? Is that like a price gouging price? Is that a fake image? You know, I hear going to Burger King and ordering a meal with a drink is something like $15 or $20. That to me sounds crazy, and I don't know if that's just New York and San Francisco and big cities, or if that's the same in like Ocala, Florida, or something like that. So tell me, what is a burger meal, the Whopper with fries and drink? What would that cost in your town? And or tell me the price if you went to Walmart for a gallon of milk, a pound of beef. That's a really good way of just knowing what the conversion rate. You know, we actually have a lot of beef here. It is a Hindu culture in Bali, but not to give too much of a history lesson, they traded a lot with India, say 500, 700 years ago, whatever the number is, and they adopted some of the culture, but they continue to eat beef, and they have their own, you could say, branch of Hinduism. So some people here eat beef and some people do not, but it's not banned by any means. So I can go to the restaurant, I can go to the local chain grocery store and buy beef, but I prefer to go to a nicer place called Meat Emporium. They happen to have the best affordable steaks and affordable ground meat compared to some of the other ones, and there's lots of sources. So I don't have the price exactly for you on a pound of beef. Some of the most important prices are going to be your food, your transportation, your communication, cell phone and internet, electricity. Did I miss anything? Car payments, gas, electricity, rent, food. You know, your necessities. So One of the ways that you can fire or retire early is simply to move yourself from an expensive environment like New York to someplace much more affordable like Florida or Texas right now, and lots of people do that. You can take it a step further, moving away from the U.S. to, I don't like the term, third world country. It's very derogatory and carries too much weight. Better term now is developing country. I don't like to get PC, but a lot of people don't. Give an example. I had a cousin, a wonderful cousin. I won't mention his name. He's a great guy. He was like, "Do they have internet there?" Well, I'm sending you this video and I'm talking to you, so yes, they have internet there. Listen, if you're in any cities around the world, life is very similar to where you're from in terms of house, roof, car, gas, electricity, stove. It changes what you have in your house. Like, for example, here in Bali, Indonesia, a lot of us don't have a washer and dryer. But that's fine because I take mine to a laundry where they wash it, they dry it, they fold it, and they will even press it. So I don't wash my clothes here. I don't have a washer and dryer hookup, although I could. But that's not typical. Most people here don't have their own machines for washing their own laundry. Although sometimes you wish you did. Stuff does go missing and does get damaged at the laundromats, so it is what it is. But just to give a comparison, when I moved from Las Vegas to Thailand, which was actually where I lived after Las Vegas, when I decided to fully move, I think my rent was cut in half. I didn't need to own a car. I didn't have any car payments. I didn't have any car insurance, so all of that is gone. Bought a motorcycle probably. Actually, back then I rented, so I didn't buy a motorcycle until I moved to Bali. I think that's about $3,000. I don't have any insurance. You don't need insurance here on the motorcycle. I hope no one's watching this and I don't need it. No, I don't have any monthly insurance payments. My cell phone bill is exceptionally low because we're on Wi-Fi almost all the time. So I think I top up $3. And here's another thing. Moving from the U.S. to here, I don't have very many monthly commitments. Actually, I pay my rent. Excuse me. I pay my rent a year in advance, and that's very common to pay. If you want a place for 6 months, you pay 6 months up front. You don't pay monthly. You don't agree to 6 months and then pay every month. That's not common here, like it would be in the U.S. It is common that I can get a 5-year lease, or rather, I can get a 1-year lease. I pay 1 year up front with the option to renew 5 times. So that's like a 5-year lease, but I would be paying my rent yearly. So that's the thing. That's another amazing thing about moving overseas. For me, it was like I could feel, after I left, I felt like a bunch of negative energy and stress just leave this part of my head, as I didn't have any more monthly phone bills, electric bills, gas bills, any bill, insurance, rent. Everything was as needed. So if I needed more cell phone, if I used up my data, I just buy more data. I spend something like $3 a month. I used to spend maybe $10 or $20 a month. So cheap, right? And I think in the U.S., when I left, you couldn't really find a good cell phone plan for less than $50 a month and on a 2-year contract. Now, I don't get my phone for free like I would in the U.S. because I'm not on a 2-year contract, but I pay a couple $100 for a new phone, and then I pay $3 a month for my cell phone service. Internet it's an island, right? So the internet is as good as it would be in Hawaii, which is another island. And so sometimes it goes down. So now, luckily, we have Starlink. I think Starlink is $70 a month. My electric bill, I run the AC in one room, not the whole house, but in one room, day and night, because it's so hot this year. It's a scorcher. I spent close to, or a little bit more than $100 a month now on electricity. Rent is, for me, is like $350 a month. So, and that's not easy to find. I want to make that clear. Living here for a long time gives you advantages of being able to search and find the better deals. If you're flying in, that's going to be very hard to find a decent place, especially if you want to be closer to the epicenters of expats, right? So there's expat epicenters or expat neighborhoods and communities where you'll be surrounded by people living overseas like you, right? They're not from here, mostly Westerners, so they could be from Australia, UK, Spain, France. All of these are very popular And there also seems to be waves of people that come to Bali every couple of years that changes. During the Ukraine-Russian war and COVID, a lot of Russians came here for various reasons. So Bali is beautiful. It's wonderful. But one of the reasons I chose it is just simply much, much cheaper than living in the US. So I could either rebuild my Airbnbs or start another business and grow my income when I was 30, 31 years old. Or I could simply move someplace that I felt comfortable and fun and exciting and still be around people and speak English. And there's lots of expats communities all over the world. And English is spoken in most places to some degree. If people here were to have a tourist from Japan, China, Russia, Ukraine, Australia, UK, America, what language are they going to speak to that tourist? They're going to use English. And what language will the tourist know to at least some degree to get around? They're going to know English. English, whether you like it or not, is the business language of the world. So as a tourist, as a business person, or as an expat, if you learn English, you can do business with anywhere, with almost anyone. You can live almost anywhere and get by. If you're going to be someplace long term, it does benefit you to learn the local language. So do keep that in mind. Why Bali? For me, it just felt better. The people here are really nice. And I'm not trying to sell you on coming to Bali. In fact, we have too many people. Please stay home. Please choose someplace else. Joking aside, it just felt right. I visited Spain, Colombia, Thailand. I should have visited Mexico. I didn't. Now I don't know if I'd feel safe. Puerto Rico, I didn't like Puerto Rico. They didn't seem to like me, or foreigners. They didn't seem to like Americans coming there when I was there. It could be different now, probably not. But you want to go where you feel welcome. You want to go where you feel safe, and you can find affordable places. And for me, Bali was great because it was really close to the beach anywhere in Bali. It also had some mountains, some volcanoes. It's a bit hot, especially this year. When I first came here, if I came here this year, I probably would not come back to Bali. It's been so hot. But the first year I came here, the rainy season was not bad. The temperature was very mild. The cost of living was low, and the locals were just so friendly. And I tried a bunch of places, and this was the best. I also tried Chiang Mai, Thailand. It's very common and popular for digital nomads. The problem for me was it wasn't really close to any body of water. The closest lake was several hours away and not an easy trip. There's great islands in Thailand, Koh Phangan, I believe that's how it's called. But I never really tried it there. So there's other places you could try. But you can try, you can plan these. There's lots of YouTube channels for that. I don't think I need to make a YouTube channel explaining the values of being an expat and geo-arbitraging and picking a destination. But I'm happy to give you my advice. But that's simply one of the ways that you can speed up your escape from the rat race. So I did want to talk about Bali and my garden for this episode. One other thing I'll throw in there. I've done Airbnb. I've done real estate, buy and flip, commercial buy and hold. What else? I've tried doing websites, selling products. I even tried to research drop shipping for a while. I then met a bunch of people that did drop shipping. The one thing that I noticed, and they even would say that about each other, they're all trying to get out of drop shipping. It's a very cutthroat business. They end up competing with their own manufacturers that they find the products from. So it doesn't seem like drop shipping is a good route, although it has a lot of things that you can learn from it. In the end, I'm making most of my money through stocks, which is something that, Rich Dad, Poor Dad kind of spoke against in his book. It's to summarize his book, whether you've read it or not, and I misunderstood the first time I read it, and I reread it maybe 10 years after I read it the first time, and then finally clicked. I thought he talked about going to the RIAs, trying to implement what I learned there, not fully absorbing. I sort of ended up at the idea that you should start a business that does real estate. Not necessarily a realtor, but you should start a business that buys and sells real estate and holds and stuff like that. But that's not what he says in the book, by the way. If you read it more clearly, what he's saying is start a business that provides cash flow and then buy real estate. Not to start a business doing real estate, although that could be your method. And that's what a lot of people take from the book, and a lot of gurus like to misquote. But I'll tell you something. If I could go back with the knowledge I have, which is what all old people say, and talk to myself when I was 20 years old, I would say, buddy, go to a trade school, get a valuable skill, make a boatload of money every year, save a boatload of money every year, or canoe, and then take that money and put it into stocks and just find the best three stocks every year and keep piling in the money and compounding it, and then eventually move that to or include stocks that pay royalties and dividends. If you do that, you can live a very enjoyable life. It may not compound as fast as real estate. It doesn't have the tax advantage of real estate. But you don't also have to learn all the ins and outs of real estate, all the tricks. And, real estate can be really good, especially when you get to, say, 20 houses. And then you can hire a property manager who treats you like a real customer and rolls out the red carpet because you have so many properties. If you have one house with one property manager, it is unlikely that you are going to get a good return on that house. It's simply because you are a very small fish for him or her or them, and no one's going to run it the way you would run it. So you're either doing it yourself, which kind of defeats the purpose until you scale up, or you're big enough to property manager, or as Rich Dad talks about, you want to eventually move into hotels, which is also what I learned from Airbnbs. Running an Airbnb, if I was to do real estate, by the way, I'd have to, number one, do 6 months of research like I talked about in my last video. But number two, I would probably lean towards Airbnb, or I would lean towards real estate where they pay a year or multiple years up front and not collect the monthly rent. But Airbnb was the easiest, the highest, most profitable real estate I did in terms of cash in, cash out. It was also the most fun. People who came as an Airbnb are a guest and they're treated like a guest, and they fall under guest laws, which are easier to remove if necessary. The police will help you. As a tenant, they follow tenant laws, and so you have to go through an eviction process. By the way, 200 years ago, the eviction would have been easy. You call the police, this person's not paying, therefore it's theft, and they will be charged with theft, land theft or use of land theft. But, after 200 years of voting and more voters are lessees than they are landlords, the laws have shifted and the courts have shifted to their favor. So I would not personally do single family home rentals in America unless you really know your area. And even still, again, this is where I say do 6 months of research before you really pull the trigger and invest heavy, both your money and your time, into whatever business, method, trading, etc., that is going to help you go down the road to escaping the rat race. And whether you want to retire early or simply free up your time. Retirement is not all it's cracked up to be. It's very boring, by the way, especially if you're not in the age range of most retirees, because who are you going to hang out with? And it doesn't lend much purpose to life either. I think retirement is overrated, and I think a lot of people also die early due to retirement because they have less to live for, less motivated. So I'm not going to encourage you to retire as much as I'm encouraging you to escape the rat race. So the research, once you sink thousands of dollars into something, you can be surprised at how hard it is to let go of that thing, even though you have discovered that it is wasting your time, your energy, and maybe the margins are good, but the time return on your money is just not worth it. I'll give a quick story here. When I was 25 years old, I bought a vending machine route, not the big machines, but the little gumballs and candy and stuff like that, placed in small offices, animal shelters, pizza chains, etc., for guests and or for their employees that work there as a snack that they could buy for a quarter. To make this story as short as possible, even though I did months of really good research and read the forums, and I avoided some huge scams, in the end, it just wasn't worth it. The return on capital was very good, also known as return of investment, the ROI, was 25% a month. Sounds great. But the attrition rate, the speed at which you lose locations was so high once you had 20 or 30 or 40 of them, and this is typical, you're losing 10%. You're losing 2 or 3 a month. And so you have to spend the time and energy to replace those locations. That is a sales job. And the time spent doing that sales job, I could have been a part-time salesman for any company, pick one, or car dealership, and made more money than the vending route. And I was trying to find a business that didn't involve sales. Vending route, deliver the product, take out the coins, keep it clean, and you think it would be good. You have to be very careful of these things. But even though I realized that 3 months into the business, it was very hard to let go. Even though it didn't serve its purpose anymore, it was hard to sell. Very few people wanted to buy that business or the vending machines or the route. Certainly not for anywhere near what I thought it would be worth. And the more time I put into, because of all the time I put into buying and cleaning and painting the machines, it was very hard to just give it up. The only way it finally happened is I got a job opportunity overseas, and so I literally gave it to a friend and made it his problem. He didn't even want it, and I said, I gotta go. Please just take my vending route and, split the profits with me, whatever. I don't care if you give up or lose all of them, but just do me this favor. Whatever profit we make, send me half. And when you sell it, send me half. He ran it, I think, for 6 or 12 months and was finally able to sell it and send me half. And I finally got out of it, not as much as I thought it was worth, but it was nice to get rid of it. You'd be surprised. That sounds like a unique circumstance, but there are probably thousands of business owners right now that wish they could just give you their business and would even do so out of future payments. In other words, they would seller finance their business and give it to you. But of course, they have to believe in your ability to take it over, to run it, and to actually make good on your promise to take care of the employees that are there, which they have relationships with, the customers that have depended on them for so long, and of course to make those payments. If you could somehow solve the confidence level of those three things, there are plenty of business owners who would give you their business on seller financing, if you choose to do so. So anyway, all those different stories wrapped up, I chose Bali because it simply resonated the best with me, including spiritually. The longer I've stayed in Bali, the more spiritual I've become. I can say I was probably a bit of an atheist, even though I called myself agnostic when I was young. I now recognize that I was atheist and not spiritual, and now I'm much more spiritual, believing that there is a soul and there's spirituality, and that we do continue after this life, and that there is some kind of creator out there. And I'm sharing that with you just to share the story of why I chose Bali. There's fantastic places you could go live, including Italy. Italy now has properties for very cheap in small cities that they are lacking immigration and they're lacking people, and they would love for you to go live there and move there. And so do the research, and if you want, again, before you make any, don't sell everything and quit your job and get rid of your kids and suddenly your wife and girlfriend and run off to Bali. Whatever route you choose to better your life, increase your income, increase your passive income, retire early, or escape the rat race, I make the advice, the key to all this advice is to research first and to properly plan. And you can do it very successfully, much faster than you think, as long as you put in the effort and you put in the plan. So why am I filming in my garden, besides it being just a beautiful location? And by the way, there's more garden over here even. These are mostly edible plants. I have some marigolds for pest control. It's very interesting. I've living in Las Vegas 11 years ago. I got very interested in growing my own vegetables. I tried. It was a bit hard in Las Vegas, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I really believe that everybody should have a home garden full of edibles. And I'm even building a fish pond or fish farm. I don't know the exact measurements. It'd be something like 3 meters by 4 meters or something like this. So I'm going to be doing my own fish and using an pump to pump up the water and trickle down the water across some filters and then over some roots so that I can pass the nutrients onto my plants. The plants should grow faster and better. That should clean up the water to drop it back in for the fish. And we'll try and figure out, I don't have quite enough space here to do a closed loop system as I would like to have ducks and duckweed and grow the fish food and stuff like that. So I will have to do inputs, but I do believe that every house in America, practically, even apartments, can grow some or most of their own vegetables. Obviously, this depends on your space. And very affordably if you do it correctly. And this is another way to save money. It sounds goofy, maybe even, but there's so much chemicals being sprayed on your crops, including glyphosate or Roundup, is being used after the harvest as a desiccant, which means to dry it so it doesn't mold. And if you don't know, most of these pesticides are supposed to be sprayed and kept in the sun and the rain for 2 weeks so that they can dissolve and go away before they're processed and eaten. So you really have no food safety right now, unfortunately, in many parts of the world. So that's one benefit. Your health is another benefit. Obviously costs you a lot of money if you get sick and go to any hospital. Although that's another reason to live overseas. Hospitals are much, much cheaper, but not better than the US. If you wanted good hospitals right now, Vietnam would be a good choice. And I'll pause here and say, if you are seriously considering moving to Asian countries, such as Thailand, Vietnam, or Indonesia, my fiance, for a fee, would help you with all of the planning and finding the location, negotiating the best prices, making sure that you land safely, that you have a car pick you up and take you to your destination, and make everything as smooth as possible in the low thousands of dollars, say 5,000 plus or minus, to make everything as smooth as possible, and so that and you would basically save $5,000 or more on mishaps and mistakes and headaches and rent, price gouging, etc. by using her services. So it's almost free, basically. We just ask that you pay the fee so that you're not wasting her time, and that it's paid up front so you know you're not going to disappear, or if you decide not to come, she's not wasting her time, because whether you come or not come, that's her time that is being spent. But we make it very easy for you in those countries. And the reason I brought up Vietnam is their hospital systems are really good. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation donated over $1 billion to upgrade their hospitals with the newest technology and equipment. So my own personal opinion, the hospitals in Vietnam are some of the best right now. They're above Thailand. Thailand would be my second choice, and then somewhere far below would be Indonesia. This is not the place to go if you need regular hospital care, maybe. That is something to consider. And you should obviously continue to do your own research on that as well. But Vietnam is wonderful. The food is great. The pho is great. I would say that the people and the generosity or the camaraderie is better in Bali. But there's also different cities in Vietnam. Big cities and small cities, and beautiful cities, rice fields, mountains. There's a lot to Vietnam. But if you're considering any of those three places, please consider contacting me or comment below, and my fiance can help you for a fee. And she's looking for additional work, so happy to do that and help you. So the garden. I firmly believe that anybody in the U.S. and most countries, but I can speak more accurately to the U.S., can and should start their own garden. You can grow some things very easily, potatoes, onions, stuff like that. I'm growing my own habaneros. I had never tasted a fresh habanero before. I've had habanero sauce. I love hot sauces. But I'd never grown a habanero. Now I'm making my own habaneros. I just harvested 8 last week, and it's fantastic. And so just a little tip here to save you some money and time in case you ever want to do it. Start with polybags. If you have great land, obviously use your land. But I don't actually have any land. My house, not my house that I own it, but I rent it, is built corner to corner. There's literally no dirt available. But as you can see, I've bought a lot of pots, and that's because I thought that would be the better, nicer looking way to go. But in terms of production and saving money, the pots are a huge waste of money. And so could you start proposing this question to you to think about? Could you start a garden for low hundreds of dollars, $100, $200, that could pay back in food in the next year more than it costs? What do you think? Go ahead and comment below right now. Pause the video. And then I'll give you the solution. I'll tell you my answer. Now, my prices are obviously here in Bali, but you still have Dollar Tree and Dollar General and these other stores and nurseries in your country. I assume that most of my listeners are American, but please, you know, translate to your own. I think this dog is going crazy over here. I hope that's not too bothersome. But it's not my dog. I do have two beautiful dogs, but that barking one is not my dog. Number one is use poly bags, black bags. I didn't like the look of those. I thought that was possibly leaching into the food. When you get into production, poly bags are going to be your best way to go because not all of the plants are going to survive. The pots can be a lot of extra weight. Who knows if those are leaching anything into the contaminant anyway. So simply just use poly bags. The poly bags cost, say, 3 cents a piece, whereas my cheapest pots are 30 cents a piece, and some pots are dollars each. And to translate that to the cost of poly bags, it's obviously a no-brainer, right? 10% versus the 100%, you're saving 90%. So spend, say, $5, $10, $20 on black poly bags of various sizes. The next thing you want to do is get some seed trays, seed starting trays. Get a 50 and a 72 and maybe 100, but that should be enough. You can build or simply lay out some trays or shelving to put your seed trays on to start your own seeds. Next is look on Amazon for a bulk bag of seeds, and this is the key to my advice now, is pick 3 plants and ask AI to help you choose based on your soil or the soil that you're going to buy and the weather that you have, what is going to be the easiest and most productive, and feel free to tell it the things that you like and don't like. For example, I'm not a big fan of green beans. So I am trying to grow my own edamame because I like edamame, but I don't like green beans. The nice thing about green beans and edamame is that they are nitrogen fixers as I try to make my garden more cyclical. You can go to the nursery and you could spend $1 for 20 seeds. If you were to go on to Amazon or for me, Tokopedia, you could probably spend $1 for hundreds of seeds, or you could spend $5 for 20 times 20 variety of seeds. So that is the easiest and cheapest way to get started. You can also buy the plant. Here's a fun little fact that I sort of picked up along the way. The cost of one mango happens to be the cost of one mango tree sapling. That is a seed that has already grown and sprouted and has been growing for, say, 6 months. Obviously, a mango tree and other fruit trees typically take 3 or 5 years to grow from a cutting. Sorry, I should say cutting, not seed there. But isn't that interesting to think about as a thought process here? I could buy the mango, say, for $2.50, just as a round number, or I could buy the mango seedling, which has been growing for 6 months in a poly bag with its own soil, for $2.50. If I simply buy the the sapling, and transplant it to a bigger bag or into my yard, and then I take care of that plant for a few years. Have you seen a mango tree? They are dropping probably hundreds of mangoes per year. So that means that the return on investment of $2.50 plus the soil and the larger bags, containers, or digging a hole in the ground. So let's run the math, not counting our time. Your time in the garden is hobby. It's freeing. It's part spiritual. It's part relaxation. If you enjoy it, and you can enjoy it very easily. I don't count my time in the garden as if it is real work or concentrated work, because that would obviously destroy all of the value of growing my own food. But if I simply look at the cost of inputs and outputs instead of my opportunity costs for gardening, maybe you could plant and grow a mango tree for $10 or $20, and in the future that is going to give you 100, let's say 50 to 100 mangoes per year times the cost of mangoes, then also adjust for the increased cost of mangoes as inflation goes up and the demand goes up. The return is actually pretty impressive. So here's my advice. Get a seed tray, get a few different sizes, get poly bags by the dozens of a few different sizes, get one trowel, one of these, get yourself a couple of buckets, not too large, maybe 2 gallons, I think is the size of a bucket. And then find yourself the cheapest medium, like a mulch. For me, it's rice husk. Rice husk happens to be the cheapest. And buy only compost, fertilizer, and rice husk. I've stopped buying any soil or sand or dirt or anything that says topsoil. I simply don't see the cost to benefit ratio yet. I could be mistaken. But I see that the nurseries are growing everything on rice husk and fertilizer alone. And that seems to be the way to go. And the last bit here, and you obviously have to adapt that to your local environment and check with the nurseries. So just to make a comparison, I can buy a huge bag of rice husk for $3, or I could buy a small bag of fertilizer for $3. So the giant rice husk is the better deal, and I could buy the topsoil for say 2 or 3 times that cost. But the topsoil doesn't necessarily grow better on its own. The plants need more better drainage and they need organic matter around them. So the rice husks seem to be better. Make that comparison to your own location and what's available to you. I don't know, wheat husk, hay, etc. You need the seed trays, you need the poly bags, you need some seeds. All of these, those especially plastic and seeds, can be bought on Amazon and shipped to you very, very low cost. For the rice husk and compost, should probably go to a nursery to save on shipping costs. And that is enough to start building your garden. The last key piece of information I'll wrap up here with is start with fewer plants than I did. It's, for me, I don't know, I get so excited. I see all these different things. I want to grow my habaneros. I want to grow my eggplants. I want to grow garlic. I want to grow this. I want to grow that. I ended up with 20, 30 different types of plants, and some of them died because I forgot how to take care of all of them. In a production model, I should probably start with only 3 or 4 different varieties and multiply them by 100 instead of buying one, buy 100 saplings or seedlings, or buy 100 seeds, because there is going to be some fallout ratio, right? It's not because you have a bad green thumb necessarily, but just that some grow faster, some die faster as well. But if you work in the hundreds, then the numbers will work out for you much better. So I'm growing a lot of garlic now. I've planted over 413 garlic. Not all of it has sprouted. I probably have 50 in poly bags around the property, and it's surprising how much you can fit. They seem to do extremely well in this weather. They come up very fast, maybe 2 weeks in the seed tray before they really start to poke out, and then I move them to a larger poly bag. And then 2 weeks later, they have long leaves popping out the top. And you can actually harvest the leaf from the garlic and eat it. It chews like green onion, but it tastes like garlic. I never even knew that until I started growing my own garlic. And in 8 months, if I stop taking the leaves off so regularly, I will have lots of garlic bulbs. So one garlic bulb will turn into a garlic clove, which probably has 10 to 15 bulbs inside of it. And so, again, you can do the math. But pick 3 or 4 easy to grow crops. If I could give myself some advice going back just a year, find something that grows fast, that you can enjoy the yield from very quickly. Garlic is great because I can eat the leaf and then I can eat the bulb or plant the bulb. Moringa is a fantastic tree that I just discovered, also known as the drumstick tree and the miracle tree. Its leaves are edible, its root is edible, its pods are edible. And it is a superfood. It's 7 times more vitamin A than a carrot, 7 or 10 times more vitamin C than an orange. It's more protein than a bowl of yogurt. It's incredible what this tree can do. It's also a fast-growing plant that can grow 3 to 5 meters in a single year. That's incredible. And so I bought one small moringa tree, and I bought 80 seeds. And very cheap. It's $2 for the 80 seeds. And I have compost and rice husk to start off my seeds. The cost is very minimal. Very minimal. You could certainly start gardening for $100 without expensive pots, minimal equipment. It's a great hobby that you can eat from. And you can eat from it very, very quickly. So I encourage that. You'll control what goes into the food. You'll know what pesticides were used on it, and you will know when the pesticides were used on it. And not to get too conspiracy on you, but I heard this from my father and grandparents, and maybe didn't fully believe it when I was younger, but now I'm seeing it more and more, that the governments are not in your favor. In other words, they are working more for themselves and their institutions and for their elites and their buddies than they are for you. And if one of the ways they control people is with fuel and food and taxes, why not? Why not start your own garden? Why not start your own fish pond? Why not grow moringa, which its seeds can be crushed and used as biodiesel? Why not have a backup diesel generator that you can grow seeds for and power your house yourself? Whether or not you believe in any collapse, you don't need to believe in a collapse. Simply think of emergency situations like Katrina hurricane and how slowly those people were saved and rescued. You can also look at Venezuela, where it has a real collapse, and what held its value? Food and ammunition, sorry to say, but food holds its value better than gold during true collapses. Gold is nice on the way out, not during a true collapse. You cannot eat your gold. But it is people who had access to food that were able to trade and to survive and do well. And that people, obviously people with access to bullets, but that's not really the purpose of this channel. But why not? Why not start your own garden? Especially when you can think about, as me, my goal is in the next year to replace 50 to 90% of my vegetables by growing it at home. And just growing the foods that I love. I don't need to grow things as a cash crop. I don't need to grow things that I don't like because they grow faster or better. I'm only growing the things that I'm interested in. But pick 4. Here's my challenge to you, and please let me know in the comments below if you accept this challenge, and I would love to get updates from you and follow along and to discover if it helped your life, if you were successful at it. Say, buddy, I accept the garden challenge. I'm going to spend, say, $200 and try to grow my own vegetables and spend the bulk of your money on good compost, fertilizer, and mulch. That is where the cost should go. If you have really good soil, you can buy from seeds and things will grow much faster than you think. Don't look at it and then turn around and then whoosh, it's there, I promise you. It's very surprising. And when you're gardening, just like in business, by the way, I learned, you have to think in terms of weeks. Managing people, employees, perception, sales. As consumers and employees, we think in days. Today I have to do this. Today I have to do that. But when you go on the other side of things and you become a manager and managing businesses, investments, employees, employee training, trying to make sales, and growing a garden, it helps to think in terms of weeks. So in 2 weeks, my seeds will sprout. In 2 weeks, they'll start to pump leaves out of their poly bags. And then maybe in 2 weeks or 4, 6, 8 weeks from that, I can start to harvest. And so the week is a very useful tool for measuring time on these types of things. If you think in days, nothing happens fast enough. But if you think in a couple weeks, it goes by faster than you think, and it's a very good tool for measuring. I don't feel like check my garlic every day and go, oh my gosh, nothing's coming up. I'm like, okay, 2 weeks have gone by. Oh, look how much there is. Anyway, I hope these are fun. I hope they're helpful. I hope that you'll join me on this continuing transformation of my life as I build this podcast up, the Time Compass Show, as I continue to spread good energy, good prayers, thoughts, and wisdom with everybody to try and help you on your business, but also to encourage you on what could be the simple business. Simply growing a garden in your home could replace most of your vegetable food costs. And very, very cheap, much more cheaper than you think. And who knows? Who knows, in a couple of years, maybe I will be making money from my moringa and garlic garden, and it turns out to be a better investment in terms of ROI or cash in, cash out than some of my stock picks and other things. So that's it. Let's just wrap it up there today. I'll make another video. Thank you so much if you stayed for the 30, 45 minutes. If you stayed for this long, thank you so much. And you certainly should give a like and subscribe. I hope I've entertained you and educated you for that long that you would at least give me a like and a subscribe. And more importantly, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Take care.
God bless.
Hi, I'm Bud Leiser, host of the Time Compass Show. As an SMB leader, do you feel that recruiting drags on, salaries keep rising, and your team is already stretched thin? And what if your best employee quit today? You need a backup plan, my friend. Your local talent is scarce, and those costs keep rising. Did you try outsourcing and remote staffing before, and it didn't work? That's because they promised you associate-level talent, but secretly hire fresh graduates and sold them to learn on your dime. But not with us. We specialize in staffing professionals with over 5 years of real industry experience. Think about it. No more juniors means no more babysitting for you. Less time onboarding, less time training, and faster team integration. Imagine no additional tax forms, insurance forms, and labor compliance with your next hires. And did you know that staffing with us can save you 30% just on federal taxes and employee benefits? So what are you waiting for? Are you ready to start saving time and money? Then schedule a call today and let's become your top choice for top global talent. Just go to budleiser.com and click outsource. That's BUDLEISER.com. Well, thank you. You've been listening to the Time Compass Show with Bud Leiser. I hope our compass has shown you a better way forward. Now, if you've enjoyed this episode, I dare you not to like and not to subscribe. And I definitely double dare you not to share this episode with 2 of your friends who you know that would love this show. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, cheers.